Welcome to Morning Coffee and Mimosas. I'm Christina.
And I'm Joe.
We are a father-daughter duo. We come here Sunday mornings, but you can come here anytime you please. We banter about life, about business, and we do it over coffee and mimosas.
All right, I'm not going to say good morning this morning because I'm just going to say that the coffee was delicious and I hope you liked your drink. That's it. I'm not saying anything else. You know why? Because I'm confident enough now to just change it up.
You are.
Coffee was delicious. I hope your drink was good.
My drink is always good.
Okay, good. And my coffee is always good too.
The coffee was good, actually.
A little cocky of me there, isn't it?
You're always very cocky.
I know.
I think, so listeners, this morning, my dad and I are going to talk about building confidence and how it can boost your self-esteem. And I think, Dad, this was your idea, this topic, and I think it's a funny one because I don't know if all of our listeners would agree, but you have gotten a little cocky these days.
But that's the thing. You see, I just did that on purpose.
You guys
Confidence is not cockiness. So if I was a little cocky, I apologize for that.
It's okay. It's better to be a little cocky than to be cowering.
That's true. But when it comes to my coffee, I mean, it's the truth. It's really good.
It is actually the truth.
It really is.
You can be confident when you're sure.
That's right.
In your abilities.
That's correct. Correct. And by the way,
you can be
listeners,
a little cocky when you're sure.
A little bit. Listeners, I don't make fancy espresso or lattes or whatever. This is just a great cup of regular coffee.
Yeah, this guy is, let's just call it your average Joe coffee.
Not your average. I'm your average Joe that makes not your average Joe coffee.
So
how's that?
Would your coffee be called like better than your average Joe?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No
average.
question.
It's average, but better.
Right. Like I'm not a
You're
master.
not a French press guy. You're not.
I'm not a one of these coffee gurus that goes to these competitions.
You're going to Costco to buy your beans. You like those beans, but you're not like importing your beans from like Brazil.
I know.
Where are good beans from?
Actually, these are from Mexico.
So you are importing your beans.
But they're whole beans.
But Kirkland
they're organic.
is doing it for you.
But it's not Kirkland brand. All right, we're sorry. We're trying to we try to get right to the point and we don't.
But as we're talking to you listeners about building confidence, we're also going to be working on humbling Joe over here. Just kidding.
It'll start right now.
But he is better than your average Joe.
There you go for coffee. But this brings up a good point. So with today's topic is confidence. Obviously, we're going to talk about confidence, and it's so important. I can't overestimate how important confidence is in getting what you want. And it's, again, confidence is not cockiness and it's not arrogance. But when you speak confidently to somebody, then that person actually kind of relaxes and feels more sure about what it is that they're hearing. So no matter what it is, they feel a little bit more sure. So think about that. If you're going on a job interview, you're not going to be cocky, but you're going to be confident in your answers without being arrogant. Then it makes the interviewer feel more secure and safe in those answers. When you are selling to somebody or making a presentation about your company's abilities to carry through, when you are measured and come across confident, it relaxes the listener and makes them feel more safe and secure in that conversation. Does that make sense?
It does. And I will say you are so confident in this topic that you've just really put me at ease. I didn't even feel a need to interrupt you.
Wow. This is a first in 51 episodes. So I'll continue then.
No, I completely agree, though.
All right. Now, there's a million ways to feel more confident, but I want to give you 5 ways that I think will really just help you put this into perspective. All right. And the first step is to believe in yourself. So, duh, I always do that. There's always the duh statement, believe in yourself. But that's very true. We have to believe. Every one of us has strengths and weaknesses. And Christina and I were talking about this during the week as we prepare for these episodes, and then we have promotion to do and we have everything else. she and I pretty much complement each other because I have weaknesses that she's strong with, and she has some weaknesses, only a couple, that I am a little bit better at. So the point is, you don't get down on yourself for what you can't do. I shouldn't say can't do. Everybody can do everything, but we do them better than others or whatever. But there are things that I'm not super creative, like for the marketing posts and stuff like that. And you are far more creative. It doesn't mean, why should I get depressed about that?
Well, and I have a lot less patience and attention for the details of the technology. So like we have, I think, been successful in getting this done, getting it out and getting it launched because we've leaned into the areas where each of us are strong and been confident enough to admit the areas where we both fall short.
Right.
So we've said, well, for a while, you were throwing out like creative posts to put on Instagram. And then, I finally
didn't like them. she's dancing around.
I'd be like, great. Okay, we're going to just redo that. And then if it were up to me figuring out like what technology do we use to deploy this and getting everything, into the distribution channel and all of that, that would be an area I would certainly struggle and did. Mm-hmm. So I think believe in yourself, but be confident enough to admit the things that are just not your strengths and not your, number one. And certainly you can teach yourself to do things, but if you lean into the things that, your major beliefs and the things that are core to what make you special and different than other people, that's a way for you to really capitalize on the belief in yourself and be able to be more confident.
Right. And that's just it. So just believe in yourself because we all have a whole lot running that's positive. So run with that. That's number one. Number two is to be proud of what you've accomplished. A lot of us, again, it's easy to focus on the weaknesses and I should have, I would have. Look at your accomplishments. They're far more than you give yourself credit for, all of us. And when you look back and think about everything that you've accomplished, no matter what that was, you've accomplished it, and that will help bolster your own self-confidence, self-worth, boosting yourself. And if that bleeds in, I'm going to move on.
No, but if you can't, no, but I don't want to move on yet, Dad.
I do.
I'm going to shut you down there because I think it's easy for us to say, be proud of what you've accomplished. Mm-hmm. But if you're struggling to remember or recall or really dig deep enough to find what you have accomplished, there are ways to figure it out. So I would say get a piece of paper and start writing things down. Like you can write anything down. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's thinking about the day. You might have an accomplishment might have been, I didn't snooze my alarm. An accomplishment could have been, I ate healthy for 2 days in a row. An accomplishment could have been, I helped somebody with something that they were having a hard time with. But if you can't find them yourself, ask the people that are closest to you.
Right. That's a good point.
When I'm feeling down, I might come to you, Dad, and say, Dad, what are you most proud of me for?
And then I talk for an hour and a half.
But that's it's a really good way. Go to the people that you trust, that that think about you and what you do objectively, and ask them.
It's a great idea.
If you were me, what would you be most proud of?
Right, and that coupled with writing it down, because very often, we're not thinking about it, we just go through our day, but when things happen, jot it down and kind of you look at it at the end of the day and say, wow, I accomplished a lot today, and I do have a lot of accomplishments.
Right, and then you start looking back to the last 3 months, the last 6 months, the last year, and I would bet you as you start really jotting these things down and thinking about it, there's probably also things that you've attributed to other people that you start realizing are your own accomplishments as well.
I'm glad you shut me up on that. Very good.
It's okay. That's our strengths. You always like to move on, and I'm sometimes like, let's just hang with this for another minute, Dad.
Talk about it. Yeah, that's good. All right. And linked to that, and that's why I'm glad you interrupted, because I was going to jump to what's linked to that is to stop comparing yourself to others. That's huge, and we all do it, and I do it. It's like, oh, I wish I didn't do whatever. I wish I was just like that person, because
it's so hard not to do that.
It is. It's completely hard, and a lot of that is because we have our own lives. So nobody knows what I am going through. Nobody knows what you are going through in your minds, even if you're not going through anything but the worry, or maybe you're worried about something. But when we look at other people, we only see the shell, and we only see the outward, and we don't see what they're going through. And I know it's a million people give advice about that, walk a mile in my shoes and all that stuff. But it's just so easy to say, I would have had so much more money if I did what so-and-so did. Oh, that house that they have, they must be, whatever, or the car or the career, anything. Stop that. You just have to stop, and you compete basically with yourself.
Yes.
Yourself.
And also, every single person has a different definition of what they consider success. Mm-hmm. So you might be measuring someone else's success differently than they measure their own, and differently than you measure. You know what I mean? Like, you might be looking at somebody and saying, well, the money they have in the bank is how successful they are. Well, did they earn that money? Did they, you know what I mean? It's like,
did they inherit it?
You might be looking at, there's so many different things that you could consider, what makes somebody successful, or what makes somebody you'd want to look up to. And I think part of it is like being really objective about, in the thread of who you are, what do you consider successful? And then measure yourself against that.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Is it about being a good person? Is it about how much money you have in the bank? Is it about how you're helping others? Mm-hmm. Like what makes you proud of yourself? And then I think that helps to feed into your accomplishments too.
Yeah. Right. And then speak up for who you are, and be a little bit assertive. In, number 4 would be to be a little bit assertive. So I want to talk about that, because that's where nice people are not assertive sometimes, because they don't want to be considered arrogant or anything like that. But when you basically hear things, or someone's in a meeting and they're saying things, and you have a good idea and you want to get in, say it. Now, this brings up something that I'm going to say, and I'm not a psychologist or whatever, but I'm just telling you that I believe this is true. So a lot of people feel reserved, and they think that they're not confident, and they look at bullies or people who are always spouting their mouths, or always this, and saying, wow, they're so assertive, or they grab the bull by the horn, or whatever. And I'm talking about the arrogant side of this. I think almost everybody lacks self-confidence as a basis, and some people mask it by being arrogant sons of bitches and SOBs.
And that's where I think it's important. Assertiveness is one thing. Rude, nasty, mean is something totally different. So I think it's important to recognize the difference. And what I would say is, when you see those people that you meet that you are just like, I can't stand that person. They make me feel terrible. They are always bulldozing the situation. They always have to be, the one to have the last word. They don't take into account other people's feelings, opinions. That person is probably really lacking self-confidence.
Correct.
More than you could
That's
ever
exactly my
imagine.
Point. Yeah, because that is not self-confidence, and that is simply somebody that is so insecure that they have to be a bulldozer.
Right. So rather than looking at that person and saying, I wish I could speak up like them, look at them and say, I feel sorry that they don't have the emotional intelligence to understand how to communicate with others.
Right. That's right.
And I think being assertive is just recognizing that you deserve your seat at the table, and that the things that are in your head, your ideas, your thoughts, your opinions are worth sharing and worth being heard by others. Mm-hmm. And it's about being kind and, listening as much as you share. And then I think, listening and being able to really understand the situation, then you can bring your assertiveness to the table at the right time.
That's great. So that brings us to our final piece. And the final step 5, and by the way, I say final, there's a
million ways that you can be more confident.
Right. But we're
these
confident.
Are our favorite 5.
We're confident in our 5. So
We've been doing a lot of
Face
these
your-
lists, a lot of these.
Well, I think lists
We've
are
gotten
good.
better at counting. We're much more confident in our
Oh my
ability to
God.
count now we are getting back
Yeah.
to.
Listeners challenge. Go listen to earlier episodes, and we couldn't even figure out how many steps we talked about. And then Christina would do a recap, and we were all over the place. So
Yeah, it was not my
it's
strength.
getting better.
So for a while we were like, you know what, let's avoid numbering these things.
But I like steps because it's just easy to compartmentalize.
Yeah, you can wrap
and
your
so
brain
on.
around it.
Right. So the final one, number 5, is face your fears and just do it in spite of that. When I teach presentation skills, and not just me, but anybody with presentation skills, people are nervous, right? So people say, well, I'm nervous. When you are nervous, that's a feeling that you have, right? You feel it. The listeners don't feel it. The people watching you don't see it. You may feel that you are shaking like crazy and your fingers are cold and your mouth dried up. No one notices that but you, so they don't see it. The reason I'm saying that, and you're saying, well, I'm not talking about public speaking. No, I am, because if you're fearful of speaking up in a meeting, if you've done all these other 4 steps except that you're afraid, remember, what are you afraid of? Okay, so no one is going to hurt you, and no one is recognizing how you feel. Just do it. Just do it. That's easier said than done. I get it. But once you do it, you realize, wow, nobody shot me. I didn't, die.
And all of a sudden, the people in the room say, wow, Joe, that was a really good idea.
Correct.
Or, you know what? Maybe we should think about this a little bit differently.
Right.
And I'll say this. Sometimes, because we've all heard people that their voice was quivering, right? Or I've been in a situation where I'm talking fast and then, like nerves and all of a sudden you kind of like gasp for air mid-sentence. We've all been there. And sometimes you can tell. And sometimes you can tell in other people. But I would say it's a situation where other people feel it. They empathize because they've all been there. Everybody has been in a situation where they have something to share, but maybe they're not as sure of their delivery doesn't end up coming across as
Right.
sure as they want it to be. But you have to take this step, because if you don't take the step and if you don't talk through the breathlessness and if you don't step into the quiver, right, you will never get to the point where you can say something confidently.
Right.
And the world doesn't end and everything keeps going and your idea is still out there and it's a good one and
That's
it's
right.
worth being heard. So even if your hands are shaking, grab a stress ball and hold it. Just put yourself out there, because there is nothing that helps you to breed more confidence than action.
Right.
So step into that fear, take the action, and you'll be better off for it.
There's a quote. It's not mine, and I heard it somewhere, and I'll probably screw it up. And it doesn't relate to confidence, but it relates to getting things done and being disciplined. And the quote goes that there are 2 pains that we deal with: the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. They both hurt. So if you're fearful and that's holding you back from saying what you need to say confidently, not arrogantly, appropriately, well, that's a pain, right, that you have to get through. But what if you continually leave meetings or interviews or some gathering or something
Regretting what you should have said.
regretting, or
You see something that didn't get solved because you didn't speak
you
up.
didn't do it. That's painful also.
Yeah.
So kind of remember that and put all that together, and you can be confident. And if you just listen to this episode seriously and take any of this and run with it, I think we can almost guarantee that your life will get better so quickly, because you will now be able to put your strengths, your unique abilities that only you have, out into the world to be affected in whatever arena you choose to participate in.
Just like with this podcast, listeners, hopefully what we're manifesting, what we're saying every time, Dad, we get to the end and you say, that was brilliant. And And I say, Dad, that's a very biased opinion. Hopefully, in time, we are able to deliver some brilliance to you listeners.
We'll
But
keep practicing.
we will keep manifesting that in our own confidence and our own wording here. And we'll just need you to hold us accountable to that and check us.
So thank you for listening. This was great. I appreciate it. And listeners, we've gotten some reviews and we need more. So we beg you, give us some reviews on Apple Podcasts. Write to us. Give us ideas.
Joe Graziano is not too confident to beg and also not too confident to leave his own review.
On my knees. I'm on my knees. No. But really, tell your friends, share it. And actually the most important thing is really share with, if you're enjoying these episodes and they're helping, share it. Share it with people you work with. Share it, all over. And it will help other people. So thank you.
And if you have ideas for topics, let us know because we're running out of them, man. This is 51 episodes. We are
not
flat
running
out of ideas. No, I'm just kidding.
Wise guy.
But help us out and let us know if there's something that you want to hear about or something that we're talking about that you like, something we're talking about too much that you hate and you want it to stop. Just let us know. And we will look forward to seeing you all next week.
Yep. Wherever you are, whatever your story, thanks for spending time with us this morning. Now, go and make a difference in your world. I still love this little ditty.
You are confident in it.
But good job, Christina. Thank you. And thank you, listeners, for everything. Your support has meant everything to us. Thank you.
Aw, thanks, everybody. Bye, Dad. Bye, everybody.